Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So we're gonna have a very fun and exciting episode for you guys today, because even though it's been a very heavy Nintendo 64 week as far as recomps and PC ports are concerned, we're not letting 2025 end. We're not going into Christmas without talking about the end-all be-all of gaming, and that is Sega. All jokes aside, I love Nintendo and Sega basically the same way, but Sega fans have to get a Christmas gift, and it is here in the form of Air's Adventure being fully translated into English. And when I say this game is basically impenetrable and you cannot actually beat it without a good understanding of Japanese up until this point in time, I 100% mean it. But now, as of a few days ago, this thing was brought over to the English language, and you can sit down and play it from start to finish. And trust me, Air's Adventure is absolutely a wild ride. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. As I've said in a few previous videos, I apologize in advance if my voice isn't up to par today. I swear every single December I end up with a cold. I've been crushing Ricola like they're basically free, and I'm trying to do the best I can. But honestly, for something like Air's Adventure being translated over into English, I'm going to drag myself into my studio and make a video for it, because I absolutely love the Sega Saturn, and Air's Adventure is just straight up a weird, charming vibe. This is made by a company called Game Studio. Good luck googling that, and shockingly, they are still around as a company. They started in the 80s, they made Air's Adventure for Sega Saturn, and they still continue to develop games for Bandai Namco as of today. Usually when I talk about these games, the developers and publishers are long since gone, but this is one instance in which the people that made this game are still at the company, or at least the company still exists and they're still making stuff today. And again, that is a pretty rare instance where I can say that in a video, especially about a translation. Usually companies that make these games made 3 or 4 and then ended up getting folded into a completely new company. And I will say right off the top, Air's Adventure is basically what you see in a dictionary if you look up Japanese Sega Saturn games. It has the really fun pre-rendered sprites, it has like 10% jank, it has some polygons in the background as well, and it has a lot of dithering. This thing is just basically the textbook definition of what the Sega Saturn vibe is, and I absolutely love it for that. And big thanks to Kilter Music for helping with the capture, because again, I've been sick. He basically sent me the exact same message saying that Air's Adventure was just straight up the most Saturn thing he had ever played, and that is totally true. But honestly, this game has a lot of fun and a lot of charm, and even if some of the animations are slightly janky, this thing is definitely worth playing in English now. The game that I would mostly compare it to, even though it's way better than that, would be Virtual Hideline, just because it has that overall kind of pre-rendered look to it. But this dungeon crawler segment here, where you have full 3D, you have the ability to move the camera, and you have this sprite animating nicely through the dungeon as well, it really is a good look, and it really is an effective way to play the game. This is probably one you've never heard of before, but now that you know it's in English, I can't stress enough, this is 100% worth checking out. It's got a very high production value, it has a lot of fun, it is a relatively long adventure, and now of course because it is in English, you're going to have a complete understanding of what the hell's actually going on, because trust me, if you tried to play this thing before in Japanese, even with a guide, you would probably absolutely just be straight up screwed trying to figure out what the hell you're trying to do. And I say that with confidence because I would probably say maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I actually tried to sit down and play Air's Adventure thinking to myself, I'll see how far I can get with a walkthrough to see what the game is all about, and trust me, I gave up basically hour 1 and thought to myself, there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to get to the end of this game, because it is so story dense. I'm going to have way less fun because I'm going to have no idea why I'm doing the things that are actually going on in the game. Because there's so many weird characters with a little really fun character portraits that have a lot of dialogue and text. Some of it's going to be specific to the story and where you go next, and some that's just kind of flavored text, and that is going to make this game that much more enjoyable, because in an RPG style game you definitely want to know why you're doing the things in the first place. And because this is kind of a medieval setting, kind of feels a little bit more separate from the rest of the RPGs of the era. It's just one of those things. I kind of love the overall castle and sandal sword epics that we're seeing here. Let's go into our first of 2 soundtrack samples. Definitely has some fun music, even if the text scroll notification is an annoying sound effect, and I'll be right back to tell you a lot more about the game. Really fun soundtrack, and it definitely ties into that medieval theming perfectly there. And again, this overworld area with all of the 3D mixed together with some of the 2D elements really does have a very fun look to it, kind of in a Grandia vibe. You'll see here as we actually get to this castle and talk to somebody, I just absolutely love this dude's face right there. I don't know what he's supposed to be, but honestly, just straight up gold. But now again, we're actually going to be able to understand what it is we're doing and why we're here. And that makes an absolutely massive difference. I can't state that enough in actually being able to complete and enjoy this game. Now, I wouldn't say that something like Air's Adventure is one of those 10 out of 10 hidden gems, but don't forget, gems come in all shapes and sizes and even expenses. This is definitely not a hidden gem diamond, but it might be something like a hidden gem milky blue sapphire, which consequently is the engagement ring stone that my wife, Mrs. Esoterica, has, because she didn't like diamonds, and that worked out for me because they're a hell of a lot cheaper. But all jokes aside, this game absolutely is worth checking out. It is so weird, it is so charming, and it has that Japanese Sega Saturn aesthetic basically on lock. And if you grew up with the Saturn, if you play a lot of it like I do, that is something that we absolutely crave, and it was very specific just to the Sega Saturn. We didn't really see this kind of vibe go into the Dreamcast era, and even though the PlayStation 1 has some weird games coming out of Japan as well, this one here just has a certain sense of flair, and I love those screen transitions where those character portraits come in. They even animated that just to make this game feel that much more big, expansive, and well put together. And that's exactly what is going to be going on here in Air's Adventure. It is a massive, expansive game that you're basically going to be able to put a ton of hours into. And what better way to spend that time frame between something like Christmas and New Year's when you're on vacation than playing a Sega Saturn RPG that absolutely is worth your time and is now in English. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, what game do you want to play and complete during your holiday break, because I would be curious. And if you're wondering what I'm going to be playing, honestly, it isn't retro whatsoever, but I bought Donkey Kong Bonanza. I bought it on day one, and it's sitting on my desk in full shrink wrap, and I've been meaning to play it. So my wife and I are going to sit down and try to finish that before she goes back to work in January, and I go back to my normal schedule as well. But it's one of those things, my wife and I are going to be moving in January to a brand new place with a lot more space. So even though it has nothing to do with this actual translation, expect a lot of videos about the new gaming setup, because I have an entire studio and a lot of fun ideas, both for retro gaming setups as well as modern. One more soundtrack sample, because again, this music is fun, but this is where you're going to hear that text scroll sound effect, which I absolutely hate. You tell me down below in the comments how you feel about the sound effects there, but for me personally, they absolutely drive me nuts. But what I really love about this game are the combat sequences, rotating the camera around as you get into them, all of the pre-rendered sprites, all of the different animations, and the way the combat actually takes place. Kind of feels like a really janky version of something like Mortal Kombat. Think Way of the Warrior on the 3DO. Those are the vibes I'm getting here because I love both of those games, especially Way of the Warrior. It's something that absolutely just works for me. But again, I love that developers and ROM hackers spend their time making these things, because before this translation came out, good luck trying to enjoy Air's Adventure, because unless you understood every single bit of Japanese as far as reading it was concerned, you would get lost in this game basically immediately. And I'm not saying that that guy right there is wearing a shark hat, but it definitely looks like a shark hat to me. Air's Adventure may not be a perfect game, I would say it's like an 8 out of 10, but now the fact that you have a brand new Sega Saturn game that you could never play before available to everyone, that definitely brings it up to the 9 out of 10 category. And as far as the translation is concerned, it's conversational, it makes sense, all of the different formatting and kerning looks good, kind of feels like a lost version of the game that was supposed to be released in English back in the day that they just canceled at the last second, and that's always the biggest compliment I can give to a translation. So if you want to check this one out, the patch is in the description below. You'll have to patch your own version of the game that you do own, but short of that, I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.